Okay, at this time, we'll hear from any visitors we have on hand that are not on the agenda. I will point out that we are having discussion with the building committee later on in there, so if it has to deal with the building committee, you can say a short synopsis and then we'll continue on and we'll get that all wrapped up later on. Do we have any visitors that would like to speak to the board? State your name.
My name is Mary Del Valle. You may have already addressed this at a previous board meeting and I wasn't paying attention, but is there some kind of a task force or working group that's looking at the park numbers that the letter writer reported? If so, I'm going to volunteer to be on it. I'd like to do whatever I can to help, and I'd like to know, what the district is doing to. I'm sure there is a plan in place to improve those scores, and I probably just haven't been paying attention. But if you could tell me, that'd be great.
You want to expand on that?
Yeah, I will. There is a curriculum committee meeting which I would encourage you to attend on August 27th. And at that point in time, the district will share its test scores. However, I do want to make a public comment. That is a one-time test. That does not show student growth. That is a group of students that take a test at that point in time. Every student in the district takes that test. If they have learning disabilities, they have to take that test. And those test results are based on 1 year's worth of data. People have realized that, or people don't really have an understanding that we went from ISAT to the park and then another version of the park. The first year of the park scores was a hybrid of ISAT and the park scores. Last year was a park score test, strictly park all the way. And Lord only knows what they're going to give this year, because there was information that they hadn't quite set what park was going to look like this year. So the park test is a moving target. And it is a one-time test that may or not reflect student growth. And I can tell you, as they look at the next round of testing, if you are a statistician, they are going with a line of regression, linear regression. So it's going to be a statistical means to look at that. Each student will be assigned a z-score. And if you're familiar with statistics, that z-score then will follow that student. So that student may not meet the expectations, but if the student is showing growth on their z-score on that line of linear regression, that student is meeting, therefore, the requirements of that. So just to look at one specific point doesn't define how a student is necessarily doing. And one of the things that people will find out is that this test, we take this test all on technology. And that will come out on the August 27th meeting in terms of that. We have second grade students that have never taken a test, then take a test in third grade. So we will be discussing all of the data K through 12 at the August 27th meeting. And then from that point in time, the administration will, once again, we address those scores every year. We have diligent principals and diligent staff members. And I appreciate, Mary, that you'd be willing to serve on that. But I just want to expand on that. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
And hopefully it'll be more than just a one-year test and continue on as we were before they started all these changes. So. Okay, we'll move on to communication.
Yes, we have a great thing this evening. Our friends at, well, I don't know, is it Monsanto or are we changed? Still Monsanto. You know, at least a day or two. You know, we are truly blessed to have Monsanto within our area. They have been extremely supportive of education programs within the Taylorville schools. And this is not only, they keep coming back, we keep applying, and they keep working with us on our programs. You'll remember a couple years ago we received the $25,000 grant from Monsanto for Taylorville Junior High and Mrs. DeWorf. and her science program over there. As you remember, we had a group of young people that worked on a Taylorville High School STEM lab. We actually had representatives from Monsanto came down. We had lunch with them to discuss the high school STEM lab in terms of what it looks like, in terms of the technology component, but more importantly, the research component of it. And they were gracious enough to take our application under consideration, and tonight they're here to present a check for $20,000. They did so to us early. Mr. Andrick has that check. But, you know, they're doing great things for not only our communities, but also the students at Taylorville High School this year. And without their support and local community support, these programs wouldn't come about. And I'm extremely proud to call Monsanto a partner of the Taylorville School District. So I will open it up for a representative from Monsanto.
Well, we are extremely proud to be able to work with communities that, I mean, we all live in, we are all active in, and of course, you know, with all of our customers that live in the communities as well. So Monsanto, one of the best things about Monsanto is they allow us to be a part of our communities in many different ways. So this is just one of the ways. They started the Monsanto Fund several years ago. Like he said, it is a grant writing process, and you're fortunate to not only get one, but two within just a few years. So we hope to continue, and like he said, we will be having a name change soon, so, but I'm sure without a doubt that they'll continue with their community programs. So on behalf of Monsanto, not only we represent Illiopolis and Stonington, so you're fortunate to have two facilities so close and part of your community. So we appreciate what you do for your students and your community, and we hope to continue to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Be a nice photo op.
Katie wants a photo op up here. You guys want to head around the back maybe? Yeah.
Thank you again. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank
All right, you got more communications, Greg?
So you can see that we continue to benefit from community agencies. Our administration and our staff are to be commended on working on these relationships that we have with our local folks on behalf of our kids, which I think speaks volumes. Also, I received word from the treasurer office that we had two students place in the Ag Invest program. We had a first place winner, Olivia Mazur of Taylorville, with her rendition of Old John Deere. And then we had Drew Mickey of Taylorville received third place with his Mother's Love. So that's always nice that we're reflected. That is also in your packet in terms of that, so I do want to share that with you. That's all I have under communications.
All right, we'll continue on with the consent agenda then. Did everybody have a chance to look over the minutes? Any additions or comments on the minutes? Okay, we'll continue on to claims then. Doc, you want to talk a little bit about it?
Well, it's just typical start of the year. This is our busy time of the year, getting supplies and materials in from teachers and getting ready for a start of another year.
Anybody have any questions on claims? Okay. Treasurer's report.
Yeah, a couple items to note on the treasurer's report. One of the things that I was talking with Mrs. German this week in terms of our local tax revenue, we've received $7,964,986.91. That's 63% of our distribution. We've never seen that type of money at this point in time. So our treasurer, Betty Asmussen, is to be credited in working on her due diligence in terms of that. So, and the second payment is due September 10th. And then I would anticipate most of our local monies being received shortly thereafter in terms of that. So that's a very good situation for us. The other good thing that came about, the ISB took a look at the new evidence-based funding formula, and through that, the district still is a low tier 2, and out of that, we'll receive an additional $176,455. I do mention that was Senator Andy Menard's work with a group of superintendents, which I was part of, to work on getting that school funding reform fixed. I think we're going to start to see dividends out of that, by that funding formula, as it continues to work. And the board will get an evidence funding based. We're going to take you through that on your finance committee meeting next week, and we're going to take you through every component of the evidence-based funding formula, so that you can see how money is derived. So, in terms of that. So the good thing is that we have new money on top of the money that we already have. So I share that with you. And I do believe that the ISB did its due diligence after the March enrollment. They take enrollment 2 times. They take it in October and they take it in March. And that's how they set it. It still is based on the number of students you have in the formula to derive at what new money you get in terms of that. So it's doing what it's supposed to do. So that's a good thing. That I'm happy to report that. Quite typically, we don't have these numbers at this point in time. Mr. Andrick and Mr. Milling remember waiting until October before we actually had a budget some years, or as late as later than that. But that's why the school funding reform was so important to this school district and schools within Christian County, that we get that straightened out so that nobody loses money. It's a hold harmless formula in terms of that, and without the work of a group of dedicated professionals, that would not have happened. And I need to remind people of that, of the due diligence that was done within the state of Illinois on behalf of every child, whether it be in Taylorville or whether it be in Chicago. So we're grateful that that has been worked out. Our first general aid statement, we're hoping that that comes sometime this week. That's where we get 22 state aid payments beginning this year. The state still owes us 1 categorical payment from last year. That's a couple $100,000 that we have yet to receive. Mrs. German and I are working on next year's budget. The tentative budget will be displayed August 20th. And September 20th, that budget has to be voted on. There must be a quorum of this Board of Education there on the 20th, because that's when we certify our budget. We have to follow the protocol of posting the budget to have that met legally. The meeting dates just don't follow correctly with the August meeting and the September board meeting, so therefore we're having a finance committee meeting. So we must have a quorum on that night, and that night will be published, and the paper will be, it will be in the paper tomorrow. So that's
Tonight, sorry.
Yep. So that's where we're at. So that's all I have.
Okay. Excuse me. Consideration of personnel.
Yeah, I put out a personnel sheet. It's rather long again. It's 2 pages or 2.5 pages in terms of that. So tonight we have several cafeteria workers to hire and several resignations to consider. We have Amanda Harlow, 5.5 cafeteria memorial, effective August 1, 2018. These are resignations. Steve Dorchinez, freshman boys basketball coach, Taylorville High School. Donna Waterman, 3 hours, cafeteria worker, Taylorville Junior High School, effective August 1st, 2018. Ravella Moran, 5.75, cafeteria worker, Taylorville High School, effective July 31st, 2018. Cecilia Corvu, preschool aide, 0.50, Stonington, 0.54 North. Dawn Welch, 5.75, cafeteria worker, Memorial Elementary, effective August 1st. Kylie Halbrook, preschool aide, Washington Elementary School, Pana, effective July 20th, 2018. Rochelle Stickle, Title I reading aide, North Elementary, effective July 13th, 2018. Ruth Spinner, 2.25, cafeteria worker, North Elementary School, effective July 18th, 2018. We have a retirement of Mel Argo, custodian, Stonington Elementary, effective August 3rd, 2018. We have change of assignment. Felicia Prefer, 3.0, Taylorville Junior High to 4.0, cafeteria, Taylorville Junior High. Charlotte Rhodes, 4.0, Taylorville High to 5.5, Taylorville Junior High School. Beth Grubaugh, 5.25, Taylorville Junior High to 5.75, Taylorville Junior High. Taylor Patton, 3.0, cafeteria Stonington to 5.5, cafeteria Stonington Elementary. Aaron Crommett, 3.0, Memorial to 5.5, Memorial. Nancy Warren, 3.0, cafeteria, Taylorville High School to 5.75, Taylorville High School. Pam Wells, 3.0, Taylorville Junior High to 4.0, Taylorville Junior High. Levi McConnell, custodian, Stonington Elementary to night custodian, junior senior high schools, effective October 13th, 2018. Brian Grubaugh, night custodian, junior high, senior high to Taylorville High School, effective August 13th. Change of assignment continued. James Ball, custodian, Memorial Elementary to custodian North, effective August 13. Scott Mann, night custodian, North Elementary custodian to Memorial Elementary, effective August 13, 2018. Request for leave of absence. Shelley Graves, teacher, Taylorville Junior High School, FMLA, effective August 14. Sarah Blanchetti, teacher, Taylorville High School, FMLA, effective November 1, 2018. Melissa Phoebus, Taylorville Junior High School, FMLA, leave effective approximately September 9, 2018. Recommendation to employ. Tracy Conkey, cafeteria lead, Memorial Elementary. Cheryl Robinson, 3.0, cafeteria, Taylorville Junior High School. Ashley Butterfield, crossing guard, playground, North Elementary. Tracy Carls, pre-K 8, 0.50 North and 0.50 Stonington. Bobby Ward, 1.75, playground, Memorial Elementary. Teresa Spencer, pre-K 8, Washington, Pana. School District. Stella Oates, 1.75, playground, North Elementary. Brittany Jackson, 2.5, playground, North Elementary. Levi McConnell, custodian, Stonington Elementary, effective August 6th. Mary Harris, custodian, Memorial, effective July 30th, 2018. Mandy Burke, 3.0, cafeteria, Taylorville High School. Carol Dunkel, 3.0, cafeteria, Taylorville High School. Francis Patton, 3.0, cafeteria, Taylorville Junior High School. Erica Law, 2.5, cafeteria, North Elementary. Recommendation to employ continued. Patricia Smith, 3.0, cafeteria, Memorial. And Carla Rambo, 3.0, Stonington Elementary. That is your personnel sheet this evening.
Real good quick on that. Okay, do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second? Ms. Ebert? Roll call?
Mr. Curtin?
Yes.
Mrs. Ebert? Yes. Mrs. Marberger? Abstain. Mr. Milling?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Andrew?
Yes. All right, moving on to old business, we will start with the building committee report. Mr. Turner?
Oh, well, we had our meeting at the Stonington school and on August 6th. We convened at 6:30. Had a discussion over, I'll call the meeting to order, obviously. And we had a lengthy discussion over the facility. I gave a brief report on the history of how we got to where we were with the building and some of the details on age of some of the equipment and roof materials and so on and so forth. We then had our Sean Bertle and his associates went over the cost estimates from the walk down that we had had previously through the school on it was a Tuesday back, 2 weeks before that we had walked through with them and let them go around and see what we had so they could come back with some solid numbers. We had basically what I call guesstimates of what we thought it should be from old numbers, but we wanted to update that because you don't know what technology can do to you and you don't know what price the product will do. So they came in and did their presentation. We had a discussion over those things. We took a walk through the facility so everyone could see where the boiler rooms were at, could see where the rooms were at, the heating systems, some of the things that we've been challenged with as far as upgrades over the years. And again, I'll preface that with the same thing I said that night. It's easy to look back at a decision in 1970 and say, why would you ever build anything that way? But at the time that these buildings were built, they were built with the best practices and the best materials at that time. A lot of us would like to go back to 1970 and pay gas prices and fuel prices and electric prices that were in 1970. So building constraints and things were different. What we're faced with today with higher energy costs and that, replacements, higher R values and stuff, and insulation and that, and materials and processes and controls. We have control systems we can't buy things for. So we talked a lot about that. So it just wanted to get away from that. Well, why would you do that? Well, because at the time that was the best decision. It's kind of like when you had to pay extra for an automatic transmission. And now you have to pay extra for a stick. So it goes that way. After we were all done, we came back, we had a discussion over where we ought to go, what we ought to do. The recommendation from the committee, there was a motion made by Mr. Curtin and seconded by Mr. Milling to table the K-4 process until further discussion could be continued or conducted, and that discussion by the full board, and also that we could come up with the scope and the available money for what we would need to do. So with that being said, any questions or comments on that?
Okay, I'll need that put into a motion.
I will put that into a motion now. I'll make the motion that we table the K-4 process until further discussion is conducted by the full board on the scope and the available monies.
And do I have a second? Mr. Curtin, second. We'll need a roll call vote.
Mr. Curtin?
Yes.
Mrs. Ebert?
Yes.
Mrs. Marburger?
Yes.
Mr. Milling?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yes.
Mr. Andrew?
Yes. And with that vote, we will be having a series of meetings between finance and building, and we will have open forums at this time for questions as we continue forward. And we would like to have a firm decision possibly by January, at the end of January. We would like to get a direction that the town and the community is willing to go towards and get all our due work done, especially with the board elections coming up shortly after that. We would be starting over again on a new foot, so it is in everybody's best interest that we continue with. We'll have plenty of meetings. We'll have plenty of time for people to get up and say what they want to say. But we do have to move forward with this and get it done in a timely manner. Anybody else have anything to say? Does anybody in the public now have anything to say since we have gone over the vote? Okay. All right, moving on to new business. Consideration of district evaluators.
Yeah, included in the, this is an annual thing that the board has to do in order to conduct evaluations of our certified and non-certified staff. Those approved evaluators are Dr. Firstenau, Brandy Bruley, Matt Hutchison, Eric Bruder, Paul Held, Jessica Miller, Jennifer Wise, Anita Brown, Nancy Gansey, and Karen Koonsman. All you need is a voice vote on that.
Okay, do I need a motion first?
Yes.
A motion to accept these evaluators. Ms. Evert, second. Mr. Turner. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. I handed out the new set of committee assignments since we now have all the board in place. I gave both of the press a copy too, so if anybody needs any question or has any questions on it, it will also be put on the website too. All right, now we got to go with the dates, Doc.
Yep, and first, before we talk about that, the August 20 Finance Committee meeting has to take place. I do have information for the Finance Committee meeting. This is homework, so that you have this well in advance of that. I'm going to go through a little bit of the information. That way you have a week to have it. Mrs. German, would you put up some slides, please? This way you have it. Talks about our budgeting process. It talks about
Time and place on the doc.
7 here.
7 o'clock here.
Yep. Here's the deal. These meetings got to come down and they got to happen. Whoever's here is here, folks. I mean, really, seriously, we got to do this. I mean, this isn't my schedule, but there are schedules that we have to meet with compliance with the State Board of Education. So these dates are selected because of the publication of the budget. So we're going to present the tentative budget at the committee meeting, which is where we're going to conduct all of our business in committee meetings. People got to be here. I mean, really, I can't, the administration, we put information together. I mean, you know, so if you can't make it, you can't make it. But you got to understand that there are certain requirements that we have to do timing-wise by the state of Illinois.
And these meetings are
Open to the
all open
public.
to the public.
Absolutely.
This is the start of these meetings, which will be finance and building and.
Well, and I think we need to address the fact that we always haven't had those, that we're doing more work in committees than we have before, I think.
No, we've always had
Really?
them.
That is-
We've always had them. We have a ton of them, usually no public ever attends.
It's always open.
We'll remind everybody that it is open to the public.
Yeah.
So, what you have in your booklet this evening is, I put together for the Finance Committee meeting, because there's a lot of history that has been done in the past for the district, and I share this with you in a good way tonight. I did put in a history of the district that Mr. Hicksonbaugh put together, graciously put together. I also put together the past boards that have been on the board for the past 12 years with presidents, secretaries in that. I also put forth the task force, which was an extremely important piece of the success of the Taylorville School District. Many of you in this room were citizens in this community, or maybe not citizens in this community, but the Taylorville School Board at that point in time appointed a 13-member task force. And that task force spent 6 months working with Pat Curry from the University of Illinois Extension to put together recommendations for the Board of Education to consider. 6 months later, they did so at a retreat, so I do not want to dispel the value of the task force. In there, I gave you the challenge that they had, the mission that they had. Remember, they sent public surveys out, they had focus groups, they met with myself and Mr. Hicksonbaugh as facilitators only. They met for 6 months. The Board of Education stayed away, which took a lot of courage to have an independent group working separately of the Board of Education. They went through every document that this district had. They went through every teaching assignment. They went through every building. They took a Saturday. They toured every building in this district. on a Saturday. They came back and they worked with Mr. Curry. They created a profile for this district. They looked at the enrollment projections. They looked at education status within Christian County. They looked at the population of Christian County. It was a great piece of work that they put together over a 6-month time frame. Then they made the recommendations to the Board of Education. So I do not want to overlook the significance of the task force, and included in there are the names of the people that served on that task force. And out of that task force, there were people that had kids in school of all communities, Mount Auburn, Stonington, Taylorville. There were professional folks, as well as elected officials at that point in time too. So it was a cross-representation of the school district. So I put that in there. This is the timeline then, folks. From that, basically coming off of that situation, the district was operating 6 K-5 elementary buildings in 2006. And then you can see as it progresses through to where we are right now. So we've created a timeline there for you. And of course, following that, the committee did make a recommendation to close Mount Auburn and West Elementary School following their recommendations back in January. So that's where that's at, okay? So I bring that up to you. The other piece of information, go ahead, going to the next slide. These are enrollment projections. I've included in your packet to show you exactly where we get the enrollments that are submitted to the State Board of Education. These come in our fall housing reports. We'll have one coming in September, and then you're going to start to see the enrollments taking place in October and March. To note on this is important when you build budgets, because this is what we look at in terms of budgets. This is how we predict funding. From 2006 to 2017 and 18, we lost 424 students, or 15% of the student population. Okay? So where did we see the most loss that we have? Our K-5 enrollment, 205 students, or 18%. We're definitely seeing that because the kindergarten sizes are down in terms of that. Kindergarten class came in pretty much as we projected this year off of the projections we had. Our 6 through 8 enrollment only lost 18 students, which is 3%, but there's a reason for that. Because coming into 5th grade, we pick up St. Mary's and Vision Way students, and then particularly 6th, 7th, and 8th are predominantly, particularly 6th grade students are predominantly coming from St. Mary's as well as Vision Way. So we see an increase in enrollment at our 5 through 8 section right now due to our private schools and their kids coming into the Taylorville Public Schools. And of course, another big enrollment loss is Taylorville High School. Back in 2006, Taylorville High School was almost 1,100 students. Right now, this year, it's tapped at 867, okay? So you can see that we've had a tremendous enrollment decline over the period of years. However, it is stabling off because we're graduating these bigger classes out of Taylorville, or bringing in smaller classes. When I came here, we were graduating classes of 250, 260. This year we graduated 159. So you can see the enrollments have been going down. How do we know what these enrollments are going to be? The district does look at birth statistics for Christian County. We have a cohort ratio for that we developed 12 years ago to predict kindergarten enrollments. What we do is we take all of the births 5 years back, see how many students are actually in the Taylorville School District over a 6-year period, and develop a cohort. It's statistics to come up with an average of what we believe our kindergarten projection is going to be for that year. Why? That's important when we look at staffing, which is important for budget planning, that we have to look at that. Ultimately, we definitely had to take a look at that. So, you know, we've always been cognizant of enrollments, because enrollments are what drives funding but enrollments also determine the staffing that you need as well as the facilities that you have. So we've always been cognizant of that. And our kindergarten projections have been pretty close, based on the total county, based on our number of students, minus St. Mary's, minus Vision Way, minus Morrisonville, minus Edinburgh, minus Kincaid, and minus Payne. This year we predicted just right around 140, and we're there. Just based on cohorts. So as we do our planning for budgets, Mrs. German and I look at those enrollments. We determine staffing patterns of where we need to be. Because if we don't do that, then we're not doing our due diligence to put the monies where they need to be on our students. Go ahead to our staffing, Colleen. Staff census, I did include in your packets so that you can see the 12-year history of staff censuses, where we were in 2006, there were 350 employees, non-certified and certified employees in the Taylorville School District. That is in your census packets. You can see how that's derived. Also included in your census packets are the special education staff, and you can see that the number of special education staff too is declined because of the number of children that we're serving within the district. Now you can see that over the fact of the past years, 93 positions have been reduced, administration included, teaching and support staff. That's 27% of the actual initial working staff in 2006 is what we're less employees today, okay? And a lot of this was based on retirements and the number of students we had within the district. Okay, so they all tie together. The district, when it reduced staff positions, moved in retirement years. When we had a lot of people retiring, some of those positions we elected not to hire back. But this is where we're at right now. We did put back some in 2017 and 18. So I think that's a significant piece, right? And part of our discussion as we look at things down the road where we want to be, we're putting things back where they need to be. And I think that's something that budgetary-wise, when you look at budgets, this is all part of the process. Okay, go to days cash on hand. I want to, this is a prerequisite before we have that meeting, because I really don't want to spend a lot of time on history. I want to go right into the budgetary process. So, let's look at this. 2005 and 06, when the task force was formed, we had 4 days cash on hand. We are a $23 million operation. I don't know too many businesses that would operate on 4.21 days cash on hand. It's not advisable, okay? So ultimately the board and the administration and our teaching staff and our non-certified teaching staff, we definitely had to do some things, right? And you can see each year by dealing with the timeline that I showed you, with taking buildings offline and reducing staff, we were able to get ourselves back on some solid ground over a period of time. At this point in time, the audit, which you will see the audit in September, Mrs. German will take you through the audit, and then Mr. Matthias will be here at the October regular meeting to talk about where the district stands in relationship to its days cash on hand. So, when we take a look at what was audited last year at 127 days, that's a 3,000% increase over 2005 and 6. So in other words, we went from in the red to in the black to pay our bills. And that had to be done using the methodology of enrollments and staffing. At this point in time, the district had to borrow $1.9 million, call it $2 million, to meet payroll, to meet the August 1st payroll, and pay its bills. Some of that was due to timing. Some of you may remember getting your property tax, a double property tax, in November and December that year. Wasn't a great year for property tax owners in the district to get hit right at Christmas and Thanksgiving time with 2 property tax bills. What the district did is it borrowed the $1,950,000 with tax anticipation notes. In Illinois, you can borrow just about on anything. You can take out teacher warrants, you can take out general state aid warrants, and you can take out tax anticipation notes. The district was already receiving its general state aid effective August, but we had nowhere near the money to make our payroll or meet our bills. When the district got done, we ended up paying $22,000 in interest. That $22,000 in interest came off our property taxes, right? We had to pay that back. So in essence, we lost $22,000 by having to borrow money at that point in time. But we had to borrow money to make that work, okay? There enters the task force. There enters the Board of Education. I'm proud to say we have not borrowed 1 penny since then. The board made it a priority that we were never going back there again. And I think that was a message that I got from the board in terms of how do we get there and how do we get to where we need to be. Now this year, our preliminary figures show that we'll be at 134.34. So again, that's unaudited, but that's our numbers, and we feel pretty confident about that you're in a positive cash flow. Now remember, you're still not at the 180 days. Now, I do want to mention too that a big priority here was in terms of managing money with the Board of Education, that from 2011 to 2016, the state of Illinois cut $3.8 million from the Taylorville School District. We'll never see that $3.8 million. That's gone. That's what was called proration. It's gone. We won't see it. That's where we were being triple whammed. We were losing students at that point in time based on the enrollment, right? Going down. That's how the funding was based, right? State cut the money, and our EAV grew, which you'll learn about equalized assessed valuation, how that works at the Finance Committee meeting. Because when EAV grows, shows you have more local resources, therefore you generate less state aid. And under proration, I called it dreadful when I testified. It was dreadful to every school district in the state of Illinois. Dreadful. But look at this. The district improved its days cash on hand and maintained financial recognition after losing $3.8 million. We didn't go ask for a tax referendum at that point in time, because it's all about planning.
Well, we had already asked the year before that started.
Yeah, but here's the deal. I do want you to know that if a referendum would have passed without the new state aid formula, the referendum really wouldn't have done a whole lot but to keep our head above water. Had to. The significant piece was school funding reform passed first, then the referendum. It stabilized our school funding. We didn't lose money. Mrs. German and I calculated that if we'd been on the old formula prior to last year, we would have lost over $1 million in general state aid on the old formula. What's the referendum generate? It really keeps you flat, okay? So there's all different types of things that go into making a budget and do the planning that we do. Now, I do want to point out one thing here as we look at budgeting. Our teachers were tremendous supporters. We would not have gotten where we got without the teacher support or our non-certified support. And remember that. They were extremely important in this process, in the decision-making that was happening. They wanted to keep the resources that we had available to our kids. And you saw that with our contract settlements. Extremely important in terms of how we got here. We must remember that the people that teach our children believe in our programs and believe in it. But you know what? Without their help, we don't get here. And I think our board has been on the record for
It was a team
that.
effort. I mean, Mr. Andrick and I both remember the negotiations with them over the years, and they were willing to sacrifice some things. They took small pay increases. They paid more insurance. But it was their help that really got us through this.
And I say this tonight in prep of the budget because I really do want to spend a great deal of time on the budget. But I think that you need to have some kind of a background in terms of how we got where we are and what we're doing. Okay, go ahead, Colin. And this just basically shows the financial profile in your book. I do have how that's calculated, okay? And when you get the audit report, Mrs. German will take you and show you the calculations of how financial profiles work. This is how the state monitors you, okay? I can tell you this, right here, that's a bad designation to have. You know why? Because the state comes in and they visit with you as a superintendent, and they basically want to see your workout plan. Because you know what the next step is? If this continues, it's called state takeover. They come in and they take your school district, and the board has no power. It's basically the state running your schools. And there are schools in the state right now that are being run by the state of Illinois. So we submitted a workout plan to these folks, and we started showing them that we could definitely improve our financial situation within the district. And that's where we are today. So that's a little bit of the history. I just wanted to share that with you. And then on Monday the 20th, the budget will be presented, the tentative budget. And then also in your notebooks is all of the reference to the district's budget in terms of how the budget process works. The budget planning, which I talked a little bit of this. We're going to go over all of your revenues. We're going to go over all of your expenditures. We're going to go over forecasting. And then I've included a sheet of district terminology for you that relate to education and that information. And then also I gave you understanding school finance, which really ISB hasn't really updated this since the task force, but it's a good question and answer period of answering for school district finance. The only thing that's changed is that general state aid now is part of the EBF formula, okay, is our funding mechanism. So I give you this. If you have questions, please call myself or Mrs. German. We'll be happy to answer that. All of this information is actual factual information. The financial profile is out of the audits, okay? So all of that is out of our AFRs that were shared with the Board of Education by Mr. Matthias. The enrollments, our fall housing reports, staff census are also part of our EIS system that we submit to the state. So that's where we're at.
I'd like to add, through all these years, we've been able to keep all our programs. The only one we don't have is orchestra, and that's because we couldn't find teachers for it. So the kids have been getting all the best education we could possibly give with the least amount of money. And like Doc said, the teachers gave up a lot to make sure our kids got this. And we have to remember that. And also, if you look up our district, I don't know, there's like 400 districts, school districts in the state of Illinois. Taylorville is at like 5th from the bottom of being spending the least on their students and still giving the quality education that we give. So sometimes when you hear people saying, oh, we pay too much to our teachers or we pay too much administration, you look at that and you see that we're one of the lowest in the state, and we've got some of the best teachers, I feel, in the state of Illinois. We've been very lucky to have them work with us. Okay, so you want to set dates? You said the 20th at 7 p.m. here
Yep.
for finance.
Yep. And then on the 21st, the budget will be posted in the paper, that it is available for viewing on the district. It has to sit for 30 days. That's why September 20th is our budget hearing night, and you will approve the final budget that's submitted to the State Board of Education.
So that's
those two dates are solid dates.
September 20th.
20th, yep.
7 p.m.?
6:45 for the budget hearing, and then we will also discuss the audit following that meeting. Because the October board meeting, then we talk about the audit, and I would prefer that you have a copy of the audit and all of the information that will be presented ahead of the October board meeting. Then we need a curriculum committee meeting on August 27th. That'll be at 7 p.m. The purpose of the meeting is to review the district report card, PARC scores, SAT scores, the new ESSA requirements. Yeah. We will be going over, and this is Mrs. Brewley's meeting. She will be doing the presenting at this meeting. And then she will discuss the K-5 reading series. You will get an update on all district and building goals. You will get an update on the district professional development. You'll get an update on the Junior High and Taylorville High School STEM Lab. The memorial STEM cards and the technology integration specialist will be here to give a report as well. So that meeting will be at 7 o'clock on the 27th. Then there will need to be another building committee meeting, Mr. Turner, because we have to get rolling on that.
And I'd like to hold that if possible at high school.
Yes.
Because I want to walk down those improvements that we've made, the different things we've done. And I'm working on the agenda, looking at O&M stuff that we have to do this year, just so everybody has an idea what the cash flow looks like.
Do you have a date, Steve?
September 4th, 7 p.m., Taylorville High School. And,
September 4th.
yeah. Matt?
Huh? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Oh, wait, that's first Tuesday, isn't it? I got fire board meeting.
Well, it's
Can
committee
we-
meeting.
How long are you out of town till?
I'm gone that whole week. So you-
Can we move it into the end of August?
It's a committee meeting, so if I can get my committee.
Well,
and I'll
that's
make
very
it available.
important. We need to have everybody at the building and finance committees if we can.
Where do you want to move it to?
Can we move it to the end of, like the 30th of August on a Thursday?
You betcha. Cool.
What's everybody else look like? Thursday okay or not?
Can you make 30?
Okay.
So
All right.
August 30th, 7
So-
p.m. at the high school.
Right. And Matt, can we meet, use the cafeteria and then go for a walkthrough after that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And
Change that
then,
to 30.
and then at the September board meeting, we'll schedule another round of finance and curriculum meetings for October.
That's on the
So in visiting with Mr. Hendrick, you will have 3 committee meetings a month prior to each board meeting,
And our next board meeting is September 10th.
September 10th. And we'll set those meetings, and then there'll be 3 meetings a month following September 10th, curriculum, finance, and building.
We're gonna have the full board meeting, unit office or at the high school?
No, here, at the unit office. Because we haven't.
On the
really gotten-
10th?
On the 10th, yeah. We'll be here. Yes.
Okay, I just didn't know how.
Yeah,
As we get more into the building committees, we'll
yeah.
have to make
Yeah,
sure we
we'll
have
make
plenty
sure
of room
we
for
get
the
that.
public.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
Okay, we set that. Report of the superintendent.
Yeah, a couple of things going on. As I indicated, I would like to thank Mr. Kunzman and Mr. Walters and our custodial staff for outstanding job getting us ready to go for this year. And then our office staff with Mr. Kunzman, our secretarial staff for online registration. I think for the first year that we went online registration, it went well. We had a few hiccups, but I think for the most part, parents were pleased with the process in terms of that. We look to improve on that. At the curriculum meeting also, we will be having a discussion with the technology in addition to the STEM labs. We're going to have the new district app and the new district website as well. That will be shown at that point in time that the IT staff has been working on. In terms of that, we had a great day with our new teachers today, which you met that young crop of folks that will be working with our students. And tomorrow morning, we have our kickoff with our staff. And then Wednesday, we're off and running officially with our first official start date. A couple of other items. Our resource officer, Mr. Thomas, has been on duty, and he continues to work with our staff and administration on his duties and how his availability will be. They will be putting up the final touches on the cement work over the cold room has been infilled, and we're waiting to put the pour cement over the top of that to seal that at Taylorville High School. The boilers are installed. Mr. Walters will be doing a test soon in terms of pressurizing the boilers. The new hot water heaters for the kitchen at the high school have been installed and they are done. And the turf project is nearing its end. I wasn't out there this evening. I don't know whether they finished up as of yet, but sure take a look out there in terms of that project. But that project is coming together and will be a nice addition to our community and our high school as it is.
Could I ask something about that? The seating for the visitors, I guess I'm old-fashioned. Since they're on the ground, the first 3 or 4 rows aren't going to be able to see it. Is that going to be enough seating?
We're addressing that as the situation comes in. If you also take a look and go to our side of the field, they can't see 3 rows up either with people standing there.
Yeah.
So, you know, when you take a look at that, that is something that we're taking a look at in terms of how that can be addressed.
Because nobody sits down, they all stand
They
there
all
along the
stand,
line.
and so we're taking a look at that. I was out there today taking a look at that as well, and Mr. Walters is working on a plan to address that situation. So, and lastly, I would like to thank the board for your support and your thoughts and prayers for my family. I'm happy to report that my wife is home and mending, and my daughter passed her health today, so I'll be taking her to Missouri State this weekend, so she'll be able to go to college as planned. We got to make some accommodations, but that was her work for her to get there. But I do thank you for your support and prayers. Definitely works good. I say in my house, God is good. So thank you.
One other thing before we leave, I think we all need to say a prayer for Miss McConnell.
Yes.
She's going through some physically challenging times right
Yes,
now, and
absolutely.
keep her in our prayers.
Absolutely. And that's all I have for you tonight, folks. It's an August board meeting, and we're ready to hit the road.
Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? All in favor? All opposed?
All right. Good work, guys. Good work.